There were a few surprises waiting for me in this episode. Some of them I'd walked straight past without even realizing, and by the end of it, it finally felt like I'd earned the right to leave Bramblemead village behind. Hello everyone, and welcome back to RuneScape Dragonwilds. If you're liking the video, then please don't forget to leave a like. So at the end of the last episode, we'd made some great progress, and our total level had climbed to 181. But there were still plenty of things left unfinished at the starting area. Today's goal wasn't really to start something new, it was just to finish what we had already started. There were a few quests to complete, a swamp to explore, and a few loose ends around Bramblemead that I wanted to tie up before moving on. I spent a bit of time crafting runes because up until now I'd been mostly gathering everything by hand, but a few utility spells were starting to make life really easy. Those little upgrades don't seem that exciting on their own, but they really start adding up over time. I also made a few improvements back at the base. Nothing major, just enough to make it feel more usable. Before I kept walking into things that were being cooked or created. Now I've made sections for them all so I can walk by without cluttering my inventory. I wanted to get all of this set in place before setting off on Bramblemead's final adventure. Before heading out anywhere new, there was one thing I wanted to take care of first. I still needed a few more Volt Cores, so I made one last trip back into the dungeon from the last episode, where I got jump scared by the boss. I still managed to yoink the Volt Core, and beat the boss again. As I was about to exit, I noticed one room which still had bars blocking it. I think it was a secret room which I missed on the first pass through. I wasn't expecting to find anything I hadn't already seen, which made it even more surprising when I stumbled upon an entirely hidden room. I honestly couldn't believe that I missed it the first time round. It does make me wonder how many secrets I've already walked past in the starting area. With the Volt Core sorted, there was just a few things that we had left to do back at base. Just finishing touches. Sometimes it's worth slowing down for a moment before setting off again. Looking around afterwards, it finally felt like this place had grown alongside the adventure, with additional space to expand. With home now in good shape, it was time to head back to Dragonslayer. We went to the wise old man and handed in a few other quests and progressed Dragonslayer itself. We were tasked with going to the castle. Each step of this quest has gradually revealed a little more about what's really going on in this world, and it definitely feels like it's building towards something much bigger. We started off as a newcomer in Ashenfall, and the wise old man has recruited us to help defeat the general of the dragons, called General Velgar. This quest, he's asked us to use a locator spell to track the missing knight Cathan, who was investigating Velgar, but has gone missing. After following the next lead out towards the castle, I finally uncovered what came next. Apparently, the answers I was looking for weren't even in the castle, as the next quest marker points me towards the swamp. That seemed like a good enough reason to finally head into that part of the map I've not yet discovered. On our way there, we naturally ran into some goblin encounters. Until now, all the goblins seemed to be hostile, until I stumbled upon this hilltop where I met Zanuck, who was friendly, and gave us another quest called Goblin Diplomacy. She sensed something Bandosian around the nearby ruins and the old guild, so we set out to investigate both. After clearing out the ruins, I failed to find the Bandosian amulet. The first lead wasn't exactly straightforward. The only goblin who seemed to know anything wasn't giving up his secret without a decent meal first. Thankfully, one stake later, he pointed us towards a hiding place behind a stack of crates that we missed in the dark. That turned out to be exactly the clue we needed. Recovering the Bandosian amulet gave us the first piece of the puzzle, but Zanuck soon sent us in search of the next one. Our next lead took us to the old guild, but by the time we reached its chest, someone had already beaten us to it. Instead of finding the next amulet, we discovered something had already taken it. For the second time the trail hadn't ended, it had simply moved on. At this point, we find ourselves at an area of the map that we've not yet discovered. One questionable jump later turned out to be worth it, because turning around upon landing, there was a secret area where we found a vestige for a longbow. After heading back to base and creating this longbow, we returned back for our adventure into the swamp. Crossing into the swamp immediately felt different. The atmosphere changed and it felt like we were stepping into somewhere far less forgiving than we were before. We encountered our first few putrid rats, which gave us a poison debuff if we got hit. Once these stacked to 100%, we started taking some poison damage. But thankfully our water healing magic kept us topped up. Before long, we discovered some clay, which opened up a few new crafting possibilities waiting for us back at base. The enemies here were also a little bit tougher, so getting Lodestone down early felt like a good idea, before heading into the dungeon and finding Caffin. Now let's see what's in store for us in this dungeon. Searching through the remaining rooms, we came across a handful of guardians and rats protecting a vault core, along with a dragonkin statue. Interacting with the statue unlocked the recipe for us to craft the anti-fire shield. Now we're not able to make this yet, but it definitely feels like something that we'd be able to use against Vilgar in the coming fight. To our surprise, Caffin isn't here. Instead, we meet Spitfoot, who explains that Caffin has abandoned the original mission to pursue what he believed was humanity's only chance against Vilgar, continuing his search into the dangerous region of Gornfell. With this information on hand, we were free to clear the rest of the dungeon, defeat the boss, and loot the rest of the vault cores, before heading back into the swamp. Rather than heading straight home, we spent a little longer exploring the swamp. This led us to another cave where we discovered our first tier 3 enemy. It was a Garu druid, who happened to be guarding the second Bandosian amulet we needed to finish Zanek's quest. Along the way we also found another sanguine urn to increase our max HP. And in the distance, we also glimpsed an abyssal demon. For a brief moment I thought about seeing how the fight would go, but some enemies are better left until we're actually ready. Back at base, everything we'd discovered, such as the pottery wheel, kiln and brewing stations, got created, and acts as a reminder for us that exploring usually pays off in more ways than one, as we can now make charcoal and adhesive using the kiln. With everything wrapped up at the base, it was finally time to turn in our quest. Dragonslayer pointed us towards our next destination in the Fractured Plains. Goblin diplomacy also came to an end, rewarding us with a Bando's cape. Looking back, we managed to complete more than I expected to at the start of the episode. There were only a couple of things left before we could finally move on. One last dungeon that Bramblemead had to offer. We could have left it behind, but it didn't feel right leaving unfinished business. And I'm really glad we didn't in the end, as inside we discovered the beginning of another quest which we would have completely missed. Interacting with the Dragonkin statue highlighted a new quest located at the Runecrafting Guild, not far from the dungeon entrance. After a quick farming run, we make our way to Bramblemead's final quest at the Runecrafting Guild. Upon arriving, we talk to the statue which progressed the quest, giving us a mysterious orb which needs charged across its 3 spires. With the orb fully charged, we returned to the statue and were rewarded with a recipe for the legendary Staff of Light, a tier 4 weapon. Whilst we were jumping around charging the orbs, I heard a tinkling of a chest that was coming from a direction of the top of the tower. It contained the recipe for the Bramblemead cape, a fitting end for the conclusion of Bramblemead. Back at home, things looked very different from where we started. Our total level had climbed and nearly doubled. The base had grown, the quests were complete, and we were finally ready to move on to the next stage of the game. With nothing else keeping us here, we began our adventure into the Fractured Plains. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed coming along on this adventure, and in the next episode we'll finally begin exploring everything the Fractured Plains has to offer. Please don't forget to leave a like, and if you have any comments or feedback, please drop them in the comments for me to read and reply.